In most of Asia, asking for ice water at a restaurant will get you a strange look. And it turns out, their ancient instinct is backed by something your gut desperately needs you to understand. Across China, Japan, Korea, India, and dozens of other countries, hot or warm water is the default. Not cold, not iced, warm. And for most Westerners, this seems bizarre, almost uncomfortable. But here's the thing. Over 2 billion people follow this practice, and many of them have done so for thousands of years. So either billions of people are wrong, or we've been missing something hiding in plain sight. Today, we're going to decode exactly what happens inside your body when cold water hits your stomach, why traditional medicine flagged it centuries ago, and what modern science is finally starting to confirm. If you travel to Beijing and sit down at a restaurant, you'll be handed a cup of hot water. Not tea, just plain hot water. In Japan, many households keep a thermos of warm water by the table. In India, Ayurvedic practitioners have recommended warm water for digestion for over 3,000 years. And in Korea, cold drinks with meals are still considered somewhat unusual by older generations. Meanwhile, in the United States, the average person consumes nearly 400 pounds of ice per year. We put ice in everything: water, juice, soda. Some people even ice their coffee twice. So what created this massive divide? Well, part of it is infrastructure. Refrigeration became widespread in the West during the early 20th century, and ice became a symbol of modernity. But in much of Asia, the warm water tradition predates refrigeration by millennia. It's rooted in something deeper than convenience. And that something has to do with what cold actually does once it enters your body. Which brings us to a part of your biology most people have never thought about. Here's what most people don't realize. Your stomach operates best at around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly 37 Celsius. That's core body temperature. When you drink ice-cold water, typically around 35 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, you're introducing a 60-degree temperature drop directly into your digestive system. Now, your body is remarkably adaptive. But that adaptation costs energy. Your stomach has to divert blood flow and metabolic resources to warm that water back up before it can properly continue digestion. Think of it like pouring cold water on a hot engine. The engine doesn't break, but it has to work harder to get back to operating temperature. And here's where it gets interesting. A 2012 study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition found that cold water consumption during meals slowed gastric emptying, the rate at which food leaves your stomach. But wait, you might be thinking, doesn't cold water boost metabolism? And you'd be partially right. But the answer is more complicated than any headline will tell you. We'll get to that twist in a moment. Now is a good time to consider what ancient practitioners actually observed, because they didn't have thermometers or gastric studies. They had something else: thousands of years of pattern recognition. In traditional Chinese medicine, the concept of Qi, your body's vital energy, is closely linked to warmth. Cold is seen as something that slows qi, constricts flow, and dampens the digestive fire. Ayurveda calls this digestive fire Agni. When Agni is strong, digestion is efficient. When it's weakened, say by cold food and drink, you get bloating, sluggishness, and incomplete digestion. Now, here's what's fascinating. Modern gastroenterology is essentially describing the same mechanisms, just with different language. Vasoconstriction, reduced enzyme activity, slower peristalsis. The ancient practitioners couldn't see blood vessels narrowing under a microscope, but they could observe that patients who drank warm water reported less bloating and better digestion. And they weren't just guessing. They were running the longest clinical trial in human history. But the cold water story has another chapter that nobody talks about. And it involves your blood vessels in a way that might genuinely surprise you. When cold water hits your stomach lining, the blood vessels in your gastrointestinal tract constrict. This is called vasoconstriction, your body's reflex to conserve heat. But here's the problem. Those blood vessels are responsible for absorbing nutrients from your food. When they constrict, absorption efficiency drops. A 2001 study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology measured this effect and found that cold fluid intake reduced gut blood flow by up to 20% during the first 15 minutes after consumption. 20%. That's significant. And it doesn't just affect your stomach. Your esophagus contracts. The smooth muscle in your intestinal walls tightens. Your body essentially goes into a mild thermal defense mode, right in the middle of trying to digest your lunch. Now, does this mean cold water is dangerous? No, your body handles it. But it means your digestive system is multitasking, processing food, and managing temperature at the same time. And for people with sensitive digestion, IBS or chronic bloating, that extra burden matters more than you might think. By the way, there's another effect happening simultaneously that connects to something you feel every single day. And most people have zero idea it's related to temperature. So here's that twist I promised earlier. You've probably seen headlines claiming cold water boosts your metabolism. And technically, they're not lying. When you drink cold water, your body burns a small number of extra calories warming it up. This is called cold-induced thermogenesis. One study estimated it at about 8 calories per glass. 8 calories. That's less than a single bite of an apple. So the metabolism boost is real, but it's essentially meaningless for weight loss. What those headlines don't mention is the trade-off. While your body is burning those 8 calories warming the water, it's simultaneously reducing digestive efficiency. You're spending energy to warm the water instead of optimally breaking down food. It's like celebrating that you found $1 while ignoring the 20 you dropped. And here's what the research also shows. Warm water actually increases gastric motility. A 2016 study found that warm water consumption after surgery helped patients regain intestinal movement faster than cold or room temperature water. Warm water relaxes the smooth muscle of your GI tract. It promotes blood flow rather than restricting it, which means nutrients move through your system more efficiently. The metabolism argument for cold water, once you look at the full picture, actually makes a stronger case for warm water. There's another layer to this that rarely gets discussed. Cold beverages have been shown to increase mucus production in the respiratory tract. A study from the journal Chest found that drinking cold water thickened nasal mucus and made it harder to pass through the respiratory tract, while hot water and hot chicken soup improved nasal mucus flow. This is one reason why across Asia, warm water is especially emphasized when someone is sick. It's not superstition, it's mucus physics. Your nasal passages and throat respond to temperature. Cold constricts, warm dilates. And this connects to something else. Have you ever noticed that you feel slightly more congested after drinking something ice cold? Most people dismiss it. But your body is literally producing more mucus as a protective response to the temperature drop in your throat and esophagus. For people with asthma, chronic sinusitis, or frequent colds, this effect can be more than just a minor annoyance. It can compound existing symptoms. And before we wrap up, there's one more piece of this puzzle that ties everything together. And it might change how you think about your next meal. Here's the final piece. You might assume cold water hydrates you faster because it feels more refreshing. But research tells a different story. A study from the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition found that while cold water was consumed in greater volume during exercise, people simply drank more of it because it tasted better. Warm water was actually absorbed into the bloodstream more efficiently at rest. Your body doesn't have to thermoregulate warm water before processing it. It enters the small intestine faster. It gets absorbed with less metabolic overhead. This is why traditional Chinese medicine practitioners recommend sipping warm water throughout the day, not chugging cold water when you're already thirsty. The slow, steady approach keeps your digestive system in its optimal temperature range consistently. And when you pair warm water with meals, you're essentially giving your body the ideal conditions to extract maximum nutrition from your food. 2 billion people didn't arrive at this practice by accident. They arrived at it through observation, tradition, and an intuitive understanding of the body that modern science is only now catching up to. So here's the bottom line. Cold water isn't going to harm you. Your body is built to handle temperature variation. But when you understand the cascade of effects, vasoconstriction reducing nutrient absorption, increased mucus production, slowed gastric emptying, and the negligible metabolism boost, the Asian tradition of warm water starts to look less like an old wives' tale and more like accumulated biological wisdom. You don't have to give up cold water entirely. But if you deal with bloating, sluggish digestion,